Looking for a fast way to track what's moving online right now? Head over to Qnotables.com. It's a centralized index of notable clips, headlines, and references being shared across the community, organized for quick browsing. Use it to spot patterns, pull links, and build your own research list. Qnotables.com. Browse the notables, verify the facts, stay informed. All reports can be found on Q Research or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here. From the Q Research Boards, May 31st, 2026. Good morning and welcome to Qnotables, 4 a.m. Talking Points Live. Today's show starts with money, power, borders, war, crime, and the machine. The top story is a major financial strike against Iran and the IRGC, followed by a Texas immigration ruling, direct U.S. Mexico trade movement, election law allegations in Nebraska, military pressure in the Gulf of Oman, anti-ICE violence in New Jersey, artificial intelligence breakthroughs, platform manipulation, and a closing look at culture, accountability, and America's 250th birthday. Top story: Iran Money Network. Hit Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the United States has seized roughly $1 billion in Iranian cryptocurrency assets, marking a major financial strike against Tehran and the IRGC. The move targets the money channels used to support hostile activity and puts direct financial pressure on Iran's operating network. This is not just a sanctions headline. This is the money trail being hit at the digital level. If hostile regimes are using crypto to move funds, hide assets, and bypass traditional banking controls, then this seizure signals that those channels are now under direct attack. The story is simple: follow the money, seize the assets, and cut off the network. The crypto crackdown does not stop there. Reports also point to a broader enforcement push involving billions in seized digital assets. Treasury and federal law enforcement are making clear that crypto is no longer a blind spot for foreign adversaries, criminal networks, or terror-linked financing. That matters because the battlefield is not only missiles and drones anymore. It is wallets, exchanges, shell accounts, and digital transfer routes. The administration is treating financial warfare as national security, and Iran is at the center of that fight. Domestic politics. Border Authority returns to Texas. A federal appeals court has cleared the way for Texas to enforce key portions of its state immigration law, allowing state officials to arrest and remove illegal border crossers. The ruling is a major legal win for Texas in its fight with Washington over border enforcement. For years, Texas argued that the federal government failed to secure the border while blocking the state from acting on its own. This ruling shifts that balance. State officials now have more room to move against illegal entry, and the decision will likely become a major marker in the national immigration fight. The message from Texas is direct. If Washington will not enforce the border, Texas will. President Trump's messaging on blue city crime is also putting pressure on Democratic governors and mayors. His argument is simple: major cities cannot demand federal help while resisting law and order policies that would restore public safety. The crime debate is becoming a national contrast. One side argues for enforcement, prosecution, deportation where applicable, and public order. The other side has to defend years of policies that left many cities dealing with repeat offenders, weak prosecution, open drug use, and collapsing public confidence. President Trump is also attacking the federal judge who blocked parts of his Kennedy Center renovation plan, calling the ruling politically motivated. The fight centers on control of the Kennedy Center, planned renovations, and whether the court has overstepped into executive decision-making. This is bigger than one building. It is another fight over who controls national institutions, who gets to reform them, and whether federal courts can stop executive action tied to public property, culture, and national symbolism. Trump paused outside the White House to look over reconstruction progress in Lafayette Park. The image fits the broader message from the administration: restore public spaces, rebuild national symbols, and present Washington as a capital under active repair. That connects directly to the Kennedy Center fight, Fort Knox transparency, and the America 250 preparations. The visual message is restoration, control, and national pride. Trump also renewed attention on the idea of physically auditing Fort Knox. The Post taps into long-running public questions about America's gold reserves and whether the federal government should provide a direct, transparent accounting. The demand is simple. Open the books, open the vault, and prove what the government says is there. In an era of public distrust, a Fort Knox audit would be a powerful symbol of financial transparency. President Trump's May 30. Truth Social posts covered a wide range of topics, from national security and Iran to Washington landmarks, crime, media criticism, and patriotic imagery. The posts continue to drive the political conversation directly from the president's own platform. This is now part of the daily news cycle. Trump posts, the media reacts, supporters distribute the message, and the political frame moves before the press can control it. Trump promoted interviews with Lara Trump and Mark Levin, pointing supporters toward major media appearances. Those interviews are expected to focus on Iran, the economy, domestic politics, and the broader America First agenda. The media strategy is clear. Bypass hostile outlets, use friendly platforms, control the message, and speak directly to the base. President Trump's physician says the president is in excellent health and fully fit to serve. The statement comes as health and stamina remain major political issues in a high-pressure election environment. Voters are watching strength, endurance, clarity, and command presence. The physician's statement gives Trump's team another clean answer to questions about fitness for office. Trade and economy. The United States and Mexico have completed the first bilateral round of USMCA review talks, focusing on autos, steel, aluminum, supply chains, and economic security. Canada was not part of this first round, making the talks a major signal that Washington and Mexico City are moving directly on trade priorities. This matters because USMCA is not just a trade deal. It is now tied to border security, manufacturing, energy, labor, China competition, and North American supply chain control. Direct talks with Mexico show that Washington is prioritizing hard economic interests. Canada has entered a technical recession after 2 straight quarters of negative economic growth. First quarter GDP reportedly slipped after a larger contraction in late 2025, putting new pressure on Ottawa as households and businesses face a slowing economy. This creates a major contrast inside North America. While the United States moves aggressively on trade and industrial policy, Canada is dealing with economic contraction and public pressure over affordability, energy, immigration, and leadership. The Economist is drawing attention for a noticeable shift in tone on immigration. Critics say the change looks like narrative management, as institutions that once promoted mass migration now appear to be adjusting their message under public pressure. The shift matters because public opinion has changed. Voters across the West are demanding border control, wage protection, public safety, and national sovereignty. Elite institutions are now trying to reposition themselves after years of dismissing those concerns. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent spoke at the Reagan National Economic Forum, laying out the administration's view that economic strength and national security are now inseparable. His remarks focused on rebuilding American power through trade, finance, energy, and industrial policy. The message is that economics is not separate from defense. Trade policy, sanctions, manufacturing, crypto enforcement, and energy policy are all tools of national power. A container cartel case has reportedly forced the chairman of Pacific International Lines to step aside. The shipping industry remains under pressure as governments and regulators examine pricing power, supply chain control, and anti-competitive behavior across global freight markets. This is another reminder that supply chains are strategic. Whoever controls shipping, ports, freight pricing, and container movement has leverage over the global economy.
Start your day right with Ahoy the Ship Show, where real talk meets real energy. No fluff, no filter, just stories, opinions, and moments that matter. Catch us live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. Your daily launch point for what you need to know, and a few things you didn't. Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. Switch gears with Night Owl News Archives. A laid-back dive into the week's biggest headlines and hidden gems. Miss a show? Visit don'tdeletemebro.com for notes, highlights, and extras. Tap in or get left behind.
At shop.isitwaya.com, everything you buy supports Acun.top, the place where people talk freely no matter what. Check out our Acun Honey Pot, a jar of yummy honey that's as strong as your voice. Put it on toaster and tea. It's not just honey, it's freedom in every bite. Then there's Acun Butter, a smooth handmade skin cream that makes you feel good while you fight for what's right. Awesome wood and pieces for display only. Hang them up or set them out. They're for showing off Acun's tough spirit. Want to help even more? Get a proto membership. So go to shop.isitwaya.com now and grab some goodies. Help Acun.top keep free speech alive, and let's keep the ideas flowing loud and free.
All reports can be found on Q Research or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here. From the Q Research boards, May 31st, 2026, election integrity Democrats in Nebraska are being accused of election law violations, adding another dispute to the national fight over election integrity. The allegation belongs in the political accountability column as voters demand clean rules and transparent enforcement. Election integrity remains one of the central issues in American politics. The public wants clear laws, equal enforcement, verified procedures, and consequences when political actors cross the line. One of 51 emails obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request is drawing new attention from investigative reporter John Solomon. The release is being described as part of a larger document trail that could expose government communications previously hidden from public view. FOIA remains one of the few tools citizens and reporters have to force information out of government agencies. When emails are hidden, delayed, or buried, public trust erodes. When they are released, the paper trail starts talking. International conflict, Iran, Gulf of Oman, and global alignments. President Trump is keeping pressure on Iran, saying Tehran is in a bad position and repeating that Iran cannot be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon. The message is clear. Negotiations may continue, but Washington's bottom line remains nuclear denial and regional pressure. This connects directly to the crypto seizures, Qatar's refusal to release unrestricted funds, and U.S. military action in the region. The pressure campaign is financial, diplomatic, and military. Qatar has rejected Iran's demand for direct, unrestricted access to $12 billion in funds held in Doha. Instead, the money would reportedly be limited to credit for essential goods, keeping liquid cash out of Tehran's hands. That distinction matters. Credit for controlled purchases is not the same thing as handing Iran cash. Qatar's refusal limits Tehran's flexibility and keeps pressure on the regime's finances. U.S. Central Command says American forces disabled the M/V Lian Star in the Gulf of Oman after the vessel ignored repeated warnings tied to a blockade violation. CENTCOM says the ship was moving toward an Iranian port and was stopped after more than 20 warnings. This is a direct military enforcement action in a critical maritime corridor. The Gulf of Oman remains central to energy movement, sanctions enforcement, Iranian activity, and regional security. Joint Task Force Southern Spear carried out a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel tied to designated terrorist organizations. U.S. Southern Command says intelligence confirmed the vessel was traveling along known narco-trafficking routes, and 2 male narco-terrorists were killed with no U.S. forces harmed. This brings the terror crime connection into focus. Narco networks, trafficking routes, and hostile organizations are no longer being treated as separate problems. They are being treated as part of a broader security threat. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says the United States will no longer subsidize wealthy allies that refuse to carry their own defense burden. The message to NATO is direct. America wants partners, not protectorates, and allies are being pushed to spend more on their own security. This is a major shift in tone. The United States is telling Europe that alliance membership does not mean permanent dependence on American taxpayers. Congress is reviewing language in the 2027 defense bill that would deepen U.S. Israel defense technology cooperation. The proposal, listed as Section 224, would expand coordination on military technology, data, and joint defense systems between the two countries. This would further lock in U.S. Israel defense coordination at a time when the Middle East is already under pressure from Iran, terror networks, and shifting regional alliances. Russia and Afghanistan's Taliban government have signed a military cooperation agreement in Moscow. The deal signals deepening security ties between Moscow and Kabul and raises new concerns about regional alignment after America's withdrawal from Afghanistan. The withdrawal left a vacuum. Russia is moving into that space, and Afghanistan is now part of a larger geopolitical chessboard involving Moscow, Beijing, Tehran, and regional power brokers. Ukraine has denied Russian accusations that its drone strike killed students in a dormitory in occupied Luhansk. Russia claims civilians were targeted, while Ukraine says it struck a military drone command unit and denies targeting civilian infrastructure. The information war around Ukraine continues alongside the battlefield. Drone warfare, civilian casualty claims, and competing military narratives remain central to how both sides shape global opinion. A top U.S. commander has held a rare meeting with Cuban military officials near Guantanamo Bay. The exchange focused on perimeter security and force protection, marking an unusual direct contact between the two militaries during a period of renewed pressure on Havana. Guantanamo remains strategically sensitive. Any direct U.S. Cuban military contact near the base carries weight because of the history, geography, and regional security implications. Ghana's parliament has passed a bill criminalizing the promotion, funding, and sponsorship of LGBTQ activities. The bill now moves toward presidential action and would impose prison penalties for both same-sex conduct and organized advocacy connected to LGBTQ activity. The bill is drawing global attention and will likely create diplomatic pressure between Ghana, Western governments, religious groups, and international rights organizations. Iran has issued more death sentences tied to protest activity, continuing its hardline crackdown on dissent. Tehran is using executions and capital charges to intimidate opposition voices and suppress public resistance. This is the domestic face of the Iranian regime: pressure abroad, repression at home, and harsh punishment for those who challenge state authority.
All reports can be found on Q Research or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsement.
Don't delete me bro.com. 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 Share the site with others. Don't delete me bro.com. Don't delete me bro.com. Don't delete me bro.com. Share the site with others. Don't delete me bro.com.
All reports can be found on Q Research or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here.
From the Q Research Boards, May 31, 2026 crime and public safety reports out of Newark say anti-ICE organizers near Delaney Hall had equipment, supplies, and protective gear staged around the protest zone. The story adds to growing concern that some demonstrations are being organized for confrontation instead of peaceful protest. The Delaney Hall situation is becoming a flashpoint in the immigration debate. It brings together sanctuary politics, outside agitators, federal enforcement, and the question of who is really driving street-level unrest. The Justice Department has charged a New Jersey protester accused of kicking and biting ICE officers outside Delaney Hall. Federal officials say assaults on law enforcement will be prosecuted, and the case now becomes part of the broader crackdown on violent anti-ICE actions. There is a clear line between protest and assault. Once officers are attacked, the issue moves from speech to criminal conduct. New Jersey Governor Mickey Sherrill says 5 of 6 people arrested during the Delaney Hall unrest were from outside New Jersey. That detail strengthens the argument that outside agitators helped inflame the situation around the ICE detention facility. When most arrests come from outside the state, the public has a right to ask who organized the action, who funded it, and what the real objective was. A deadly bus crash in Virginia has killed 5 people and injured dozens more, including several critically. Authorities say the driver failed to slow near a construction zone backup, and investigators are reviewing speed, licensing, and language proficiency issues. This is a public safety story with serious consequences. 5 people are dead, many more are injured, and investigators now have to determine whether this was preventable. Former Waco attorney Adam Hoffman has been released after serving 29 days of a 60-day jail sentence tied to reduced charges in a child sexual abuse case. The early release is fueling anger over plea deals, sentencing, and public confidence in the justice system. Cases involving children demand serious punishment and public transparency. When sentences are short and releases come early, people lose confidence that the system protects victims. Australian police officer Nathan Black is under scrutiny after camera footage reportedly showed him beating a woman in a Sydney street. The case raises questions about police conduct, body camera evidence, and accountability when law enforcement crosses the line. Body cameras matter because they show what happened. When the footage is ugly, the public expects consequences. A TikTok user employed by Jean Dark Credit Union reportedly lost her job after posting a video wishing severe cancer suffering on Pam Bondi. The backlash was immediate, and the employer said the conduct violated its standards and values. This is another example of social media behavior becoming a workplace issue. People are free to speak, but employers are also free to decide whether public conduct damages their institution. Tech, AI, platforms, and science. Big tech is still selling the AI revolution, but the cost side of the equation is becoming harder to ignore. Reports show AI infrastructure spending is exploding, margins are being squeezed, and some companies are quietly cutting or rethinking expensive AI projects. The AI race is real, but so is the bill. Data centers, power demand, chips, cooling, and labor costs are forcing companies to decide which projects are hype and which ones produce real value. Artificial intelligence has helped solve a math problem that stumped humans for about 80 years. The breakthrough centers on an Erdos geometry problem and shows how advanced reasoning models may begin contributing original work in high-level mathematics. This is where AI becomes more than a chatbot. When it starts assisting with unsolved research problems, the conversation changes from automation to discovery. Bluesky accounts have been hijacked in a pro-Russia propaganda campaign. Researchers say compromised accounts were used to push anti-Ukraine narratives, showing that newer social platforms are now major targets for foreign influence operations. The lesson is simple. Every platform becomes a battlefield once it gains influence. Smaller platforms are not immune to propaganda, bots, account theft, or coordinated narrative operations. X is cracking down on large creator accounts accused of building audiences and revenue through stolen content. The platform says engagement and monetization should go to original creators, not aggregator accounts that repost other people's work without proper credit. This is a major issue in the creator economy. If stolen content gets rewarded, original reporting and original media production get punished. A Bill Gates-backed mosquito project in Colombia is releasing millions of Wolbachia-infected mosquitoes each week. Supporters say the effort is designed to reduce dengue and other mosquito-borne disease transmission, while critics remain focused on transparency, consent, and long-term ecological effects. The project sits at the intersection of public health, biotechnology, and public trust. Large-scale biological release programs need clear communication because people want to know what is being released, where, and why. Google-linked mosquito work in California is drawing renewed attention as specially treated mosquitoes are planned for release. Supporters describe it as disease control science, but the public debate remains focused on transparency, consent, and long-term ecological effects. These projects may be sold as public health tools, but the public still expects accountability, local notice, and honest discussion of risk. The Space Force is signaling support for Blue Origin after a recent test. Officials say private space companies remain critical partners as America builds out launch capacity, defense infrastructure, and the next generation of national security space systems. Space is now a defense domain, an economic domain, and a technology race. Private launch partners are part of that national security structure. A resurfaced C.P. Steinmetz's explanation of electricity is circulating online, focusing on dielectric and magnetic forces working at radial angles in a circuit. It is a technical item, but it is gaining traction among people interested in electrical theory and older scientific explanations. Not every viral technical discussion is breaking news, but these conversations show that people are hungry for deeper explanations of how systems actually work. A loud sonic boom startled thousands across parts of the East Coast and New England. NASA says a fast-moving meteor exploded high above the region, releasing enough energy to shake homes and trigger widespread reports from residents. The boom was not military action. It was a meteor event, and it gave thousands of people a sudden reminder that space activity is not always distant or theoretical. Culture, media, and closing segment. Democrat-led gun control efforts are now targeting Glock-style pistols in several states, with bills focused on firearms that can allegedly be converted with illegal switch devices. Gun rights groups argue the measures amount to backdoor handgun bans and are already taking legal action. The fight is not only about illegal switches, it is about whether lawmakers can use criminal misuse as the justification to restrict common firearms owned by law-abiding citizens. Spencer Pratt is calling out California leadership after Gavin Newsom endorsed Karen Bass. Pratt accused officials of criminal negligence, sharpening criticism over leadership failures and public safety concerns in Los Angeles. California's leadership class is under pressure. Crime, homelessness, fires, infrastructure, and public trust are all part of the same political problem. Spencer Pratt also pushed back on an NBC reporter who questioned his motives. Pratt argued that the media keeps focusing on personalities instead of failures by officials, turning the exchange into another example of public distrust toward legacy news outlets. The media keeps asking why people are angry. The better question is why officials keep failing and why major outlets keep protecting them from hard accountability. Rihanna is drawing attention after enlisting Elon Musk's transgender child for a lingerie brand modeling campaign. The move is becoming another flashpoint in the culture war over celebrity branding, gender politics, and corporate messaging. Celebrity brands are no longer just selling products. They are selling messages, identities, and political signals. The public notices. The Commander-in-Beef albino buffalo story is gaining attention as Americans rush to buy into the Trump-themed animal. It is a lighter cultural item, but it shows how politics, merchandise, and viral symbolism continue to merge in the current media cycle. Even the strange stories tell you something. Politics is now entertainment, branding, symbolism, and grassroots culture all at once. Hoover Dam is preparing to take part in America's 250th birthday celebration. The historic structure remains one of the country's great engineering symbols, and the anniversary gives officials a chance to spotlight American infrastructure, energy, and national achievement. This is where today's show closes. Not with decay, but with a reminder of what America has built. Hoover Dam stands as a symbol of scale, grit, engineering, and national will. Operation Soteria Shield is appearing in the Qnotables stream as a security-focused item. The name points toward protection, defense, and coordinated action, and it fits the larger theme of today's broadcast: money networks being hit, borders being enforced, hostile actors being pressured, and public institutions being forced back into the light. That is the board this morning. Iran's money network takes a hit. Texas wins on immigration enforcement, U.S., and Mexico moved directly on trade. Nebraska faces election law allegations. The Gulf of Oman heats up. Anti-ICE unrest exposes outside agitators. AI moves from hype to hard results. And America prepares for its 250th birthday. This has been Qnotables 4 a.m. Talking Points Live. Stay sharp, track the pattern, follow the money, hold the line.
Every voice matters. The power of free speech is more important than ever. Imagine a place where you can share your thoughts freely, explore new ideas, and engage in meaningful conversations anonymously. With online anonymity, you can express yourself without fear of judgment. It's about freedom, creativity, and connection. Join the conversation that matters. Embrace your voice. Celebrate your freedom. Visit 8kun.top today. That's 8kun.top.
That's all for now. Stay alert, stay informed, and never hand your thinking over to anyone on a screen, including me. God bless you, God bless our troops, and God bless the United States of America. See you soon.